Have you ever stayed up too late, even though you knew you would regret it the next morning? Or bought something you didn't really need, promising yourself that you'll start saving money next month? Perhaps you've put off exercising, delayed studying for an exam, or decided that you'll start eating healthier tomorrow. Most of us have had experiences like these. In many cases, we know what would benefit us in the long term, yet we still choose something that feels better in the moment. Psychologists and economists have devoted considerable attention to understanding these kinds of decisions because they provide insight into how people think about the future. Many decisions involve consequences that occur at different points in time. Consider a few examples. Should you spend your money now or save it for retirement? Should you study tonight or spend some time with your friends? Should you follow a difficult medical regimen that may improve your health years from now? Although these decisions differ in their context, they share a common structure. Psychologists and economists use the term intertemporal choice to refer to decisions involving outcomes that occur at different times. Chapman, for example, defined intertemporal choices as decisions in which consequences are distributed across time. Some consequences are immediate, whereas others may not occur for days, months, years, or even decades. Intertemporal choice has become an important area of research because many consequential decisions, including decisions about saving, health behavior, retirement planning, require balancing immediate outcomes against delayed consequences. The evidence suggests that under many circumstances, immediate outcomes exert a disproportionately large influence on our decisions. Researchers studying intertemporal choice noticed a recurring pattern. As rewards and consequences move further into the future, they often exert less influence on people's decisions. This phenomena is known as temporal discounting, or sometimes delay discounting. George Ainsley's work in the 1970s and subsequent research by Leonard Green, Joel Myerson, and their colleagues helped establish temporal discounting as a central topic in the study of decision making. The key idea is that future outcomes often carry less psychological weight than immediate ones. That doesn't mean that people stop caring about the future. Most people do care deeply about their future health, their financial security, and their well being. Instead, future outcomes frequently become less psychologically compelling as they become more distant in time, making it harder to accept immediate costs in exchange for delayed benefits. A simple example illustrates this tendency. Many individuals would prefer receiving $60 in 13 months than $50 in 12 months. However, when asked to choose between $60 in 1 month and $50 today, many choose the immediate reward. The waiting period in both of these situations is identical. In each situation, receiving the larger reward requires waiting one additional month. The $60 reward has not changed, it's still $60. What has changed is its subjective value, the value it has for the decision maker at the moment they are making that decision. As one of the rewards becomes immediately available, the balance between the two options often shifts dramatically. Although researchers frequently study temporal discounting using choices that involve money, similar patterns have been observed in decisions involving health behaviors, substance use, and other future-related choices. The examples we've just considered illustrate another important finding in the intertemporal choice literature. As the timing of outcomes changes, people's preferences sometimes change as well. Researchers refer to this pattern as a preference reversal. George Ainsley's early work on intertemporal choice and subsequent research by Green and Meyerson showed that preferences for smaller, sooner rewards and larger, later rewards are often unstable. The option that appears preferable at one point in time may no longer be preferred when one of the outcomes becomes immediate. Consider the example we discussed a moment ago. When both rewards are relatively distant, many people prefer receiving $60 in 13 months rather than $50 in 12 months. They'll take the larger reward even if they have to wait longer. But when the same choice becomes $60 in 1 month versus $50 today, many will choose the immediate reward, even though it's smaller. Again, the objective difference between the options hasn't changed. In both situations, obtaining the larger reward requires waiting one additional month. Again, here's what changed is the timing of the decision. As one of the rewards becomes immediately available, that immediate option often becomes substantially more attractive. Preference reversals are important because they help explain why individuals sometimes make decisions that conflict with their earlier intentions or their long-term goals. A person may intend to begin exercising next week, start saving next month, or begin studying earlier for an exam. When the future arrives, however, the immediate costs of those choices, the physical effort or spending less money or giving up leisure time, may suddenly carry more weight than they did before. Researchers have argued that patterns like these contribute to many self-control problems. Individuals may generally prefer one course of action when considering the distant future, yet make a different choice when the consequences become immediate. Temporal discounting and preference reversals therefore provide one explanation for why future-oriented plans are sometimes difficult to translate into present behavior. One way researchers have tried to understand temporal discounting is by considering how people think about their future selves. Hal Hirschfield and his colleagues have argued that individuals differ in the extent to which they feel psychologically connected to the people they will become in the future. Hirschfield and colleagues refer to this sense of connection as future self-continuity. For some individuals, the future self seems like a continuation of who they are today. For others, the future self feels much more distant and abstract. According to this perspective, decisions such as saving for retirement may depend partly on how connected those individuals feel to their future selves. If the future self feels psychologically distant, sacrificing resources today for that person's benefit might become more difficult. To investigate this idea, Hirschfield and his colleagues conducted a series of studies using digitally aged representations of participants. Some participants viewed age-progressed images or interacted with virtual representations of their older selves before making decisions about retirement savings. Participants who viewed these older versions of themselves subsequently allocated more money toward retirement than participants in control conditions in this study. These findings suggest that making the future self more concrete and more psychologically vivid can influence our present decisions. The broader implication is that some intertemporal choices may involve more than weighing immediate and delayed outcomes. They may also depend on how connected we feel to the person who will eventually experience those outcomes. Research on temporal discounting has important implications because many consequential decisions involve delayed outcomes. Saving for retirement, pursuing educational goals, maintaining good health, and planning for future medical care all require us to consider consequences that may not occur for months, years, or even decades. The difficulty is that these future outcomes often feel psychologically distant. our immediate rewards and costs are concrete and directly experienced, whereas those future consequences can seem abstract and remote. As a result, decisions that appear straightforward from a long term perspective can become much more difficult when immediate temptations or costs enter the picture. Research on future self continuity also suggests that the way we think about our future selves may influence those decisions. When the future self feels more concrete and psychologically connected to the present self, individuals may be more willing to make sacrifices that benefit their long term interests. More broadly, research on intertemporal choice suggests that future oriented decision making often requires more than simply predicting future outcomes. It also requires giving appropriate weight to the interests and the preferences of the person we will become in the future. Understanding temporal discounting cannot eliminate the tension between immediate rewards and delayed consequences. It can, however, help us recognize situations in which immediate outcomes may be exerting a disproportionate influence on our decisions and encourage us to consider the long term consequences of our choices more carefully.